Okay, so magnetos have fixed timing set around 25 degrees, but it is a very exact number before top dead center. So the animation showed it happening at top dead center, but it's not actually at top dead center. It happens before top dead center. We'll go back to this because this one's just a little bit wrong. I mean, but thank you for doing this, animated engine people, as I appreciate it. So that's exhaust, we have intake, and as it comes up on compression, right about there, a little bit higher, it would ignite the fuel and air mixture, and it would start to burn even though the piston is still coming up. Because it's kind of like, well, by the time it comes up and starts to work its way down, that's when that fuel air mixture is really starting to press down the piston, so it compresses it all real well, and then the inertia pushes it back down. If we waited until top dead center, you can think about it kind of like the flame starts chasing the piston down, so you start losing a lot of power. But if you do it before, it's good. If you do it too far before, then you're going to get bad things are going to happen because the flame and the pressure is coming down. The piston's now, it's going to kick back if it's going slow. If it's going fast enough, it'll ping and detonate and do all kinds of bad stuff. So we have to do that. All right, so the problem is, should have left it there. The problem is, we want it to fire right around there, or a little bit more, when the engine is there, when the engine is operating, but we don't want to start it there because the engine's turning so slow, it doesn't have any inertia to carry through. So if we let it off right there, it would tend to push it back the other way, and that's really bad. We get kickback. Kickback breaks starters, starter adapters, teeth, all kinds of stuff. So we don't want that. So we have this problem with the magneto. It goes on the engine, and it's stupid. It just fires where it was told. It never gets before, never gets back. It doesn't advance or retard like a car does. So it just fires right there. But we got to do something about it when we start. We've got to get it to fire right there or a little bit past when we're starting. So we've got the two problems. One, it's not turning fast enough to work. Two, we got to make the spark later, right? We got to retard it. So that's where the impulse coupling comes from. So let me see, top dead center. Let me see, period. When the engine is being started. The engine is being started. The magneto is turning slow. Magnet is slow. It has a weak spark. Now, I wish I wouldn't have said weak spark, but we cover weak spark. We know what that means.
Doesn't exist.
It's got a little something, but maybe not enough to actually bridge that gap. Maybe it does, kind of hit and miss. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's so weak that it won't jump the spark plug gap, and which is the same as not working at all. All right, weak spark. It is also firing. In a position that does not easily allow crank inertia to overcome advanced timing. Hopefully that makes sense. So we need a way to make the spark. We need a way to make the spark hot and late. So we have a couple different ways. Several different methods. We have the impulse coupling. There's the booster coil. And the induction or starting vibrator. I'm going to call it starting vibrator. Well, I wrote in my notes induction vibrator. Vibratory is not the word. Vibrator. All right, let's talk about the impulse coupling. Well, we already talked about the impulse coupling. We looked at pictures. A lot of you already have one in front of you. You've taken it apart. You've watched them wind up. You've heard them click and clack. And so I don't know if there's much I have to say about this. A mechanical device. Mechanical device that winds up. And let's go. That's easiest way to say it, at the proper time. Obviously, it's stalled on the drive end of the magneto. When the magneto is turning slowly, as you all witnessed in lab today, that the drive pawls come around, they catch on a stop pin, holds the magneto while the engine continues to rotate, and then it hits one of the trip dogs and pulls it back in, and then the magneto suddenly snaps. Here's one. I was thinking, I gotta have one somewhere. Suddenly snaps, and yeah, put your hand over it like that when you do it too. Yeah. Let's go, and snaps, and there we go. And so the important thing about that is that you understand is that it does not do that the whole time the engine is running. That would be ridiculous. It's only going to do it for a short period of time once the engine lights off. That's it. It's done. Engine's moving too fast. Centrifugal force pulls the little dogs in, and it now runs on its own. The spring tension built into it. That's not going to happen. The spring tension built into it keeps it set where it's supposed to be during normal operation. So temporarily stops the magnet from rotating while the impulse coupling body keeps turning. At a certain point, the body pushes flyweights in at the trigger ramp. Cam assembly spins very fast to catch up. This makes the spark hot and late. During normal operation, the flyweights are held in by centrifugal force. If the spring would break, what would happen if the spring breaks? What do you think? It would either stay where it's supposed to, or not, advance, or retard.
Spring makes it won't snap.
So think about it. The spring is what's actually holding it where it is right now. I'm fighting spring tension this way.
It'll advance.
It'll stay at the fully retarded.
So without the spring, it would easily go to that position to rotate the magneto. So it would.
But the magneto wouldn't.
It would be far delayed the entire time.
Far delayed, so it would run in retard position.
Wait, I don't get why that does that. Why is it?
You're not getting that pop.
Because
the spring is what's keeping it at the set position that it's supposed to be.
So think about the engine. On the engine, I'm turning it, right? And the flyweights are in. I'm rotating it, and it's in the normal operating position.
Oh, the body would be able to catch up with the.
So the body catches up with the cam. Body catches up with the cam assembly, because the spring is what's keeping it the other way.
Uh-huh.
So if the body catches up with cam assembly, it's going to run in retard position.
Yeah, because it's not held.
It's not held backwards.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it would run in the retard position. Let me see. Where am I at? Well, apparently I have nothing to say about the booster coil. Is everybody good with the impulse coupling? I don't want to write a million notes. I mean, it's a pretty simple little thing. You're never supposed to reuse the spring. Once the spring comes out, you're supposed to throw it away, put in a new one. That should be kind of obvious to you once you take yours apart and look at what the condition the spring is in. Like, yeah, that's we don't want to reuse that one. And plus, once it breaks, the magneto would run in the retard position, which would not do any good at all. Some aircraft will have an impulse coupling on just one side. Sometimes they'll be on both sides. Oh shit, tomorrow's a test. I better talk faster. I forgot, we got stuff to do. So sometimes they'll use two, one on each side, sometimes not. This is just for anything. I'm just going to throw this note out there in the middle of nowhere. So this, I know what I'm going to say. If only one magneto has a starting system, thank you. It is installed on I couldn't see what I was doing, on the left side.
From what position is it? From pilot's perspective?
When you talk about right or left sides, it's always pilot's position unless otherwise stated. If you talk about right or left side of an engine, it's when standing behind it unless otherwise stated. Because the Skymaster is behind you and backwards, but the left side of a Skymaster engine is on the right side of the aircraft. Why the left side? I don't know why they decided to make it the left side, but I do know that what happens if you swap that? Well, what happens is most aircraft are keyed. Yours have a key or switches?
No, it's just a switch.
Yeah, a lot of older aircraft just had switches.
No, it doesn't even have. It's mag switches. That's it.
That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes
When
you have a
did
key that
this,
just
was
goes
like, there's no master.
two switches. You have a right mag and a left mag switch. Or you have an old timey.
Yeah.
But okay, so it's on the left side. So the switch goes. It's wired so that when you go to the start position, like in my aircraft, which the key goes to the starter, it automatically would kill the right side and only allow the left side to operate. Now I have two impulse couplings, so both of them are going. But if you only had a lot of light combings, if you did that in the light combing and you put them on the wrong side, then every time you went to start, it would kill the impulsed one and let the advanced one spark. And so you get kickback. So don't swap them. And make sure you wire the key right, too. All right. The starting vibrator, or induction vibrator.
Of course you knew that.
All right. Said I don't know how I managed to run out of time, but I did. So much to talk about. Guess we're just going to bypass it. No. God, there's so much good stuff. How did you guys? All right, so the starting vibrator works like this. It uses a battery, and you're going to have to write this stuff because I don't have time to write it. Uses a battery and a second set of points in the magneto. So do you guys have one set or two sets? One set, so you do not have a starting vibrator. If you have two sets, then you have a starting vibrator because the second one is the retard breakers. And you can see the left one here, they got a retard breaker set we're going to talk about. Right, magneto does not. So, I'm trying to make this simple. How a starting vibrator works right there is kind of really simple and almost stupid. So as battery voltage comes in right here, the battery voltage goes through a coil, which does what? Creates a magnetic field. That magnetic field acts upon this switch right here, which comes back around and opens itself. So what does it do once it opens? Well, it pulls against a spring and it opens it, and then it kills the electromagnetic force. And since the electromagnetic force just died off, the spring closes the switch. And since the switch just closed, current's allowed to flow through the coil, which causes the switch to open. Once the switch opens, it loses the magnetic force, and the spring causes the switch to close, which then causes the coil to energize, causing electrical force, which causes the switch to open. So the switch is constantly doing that.
And that switch, I'm assuming, is big enough to make it vibrate?
That is, well, it is vibrating. It's not the vibrating action that we're worried about. You can hear it buzzing. So what that does is it creates DC current that is on, off, build up, collapse, build up, collapse, build up, collapse. Sound familiar? Chop DC. All right, so that's what's going to happen. So what do I got here? I don't remember. I set these up. Magneto circuit off. Well, off is off. The engine not running, all switches off position. The illustration points out each magneto switch input is connected to ground through the ignition switch. So, and it's kind of funny that they have that going through there, but okay. Switch, everything goes to the off position, which goes to ground, everything's going to ground. Speeding up here. There we go. Turn on the ignition switch to start. Lines in this to indicate the circuit path. So we went to start. So the key goes right, left, both start. We're holding it in the start position. It's spring loaded. If you let go, it's going to go back to both. So right there, it is in the start position. So in the start position, the right magneto is in the OFF position. In the left magneto, we have two sets of points. Right there's one set, right there's the other set. So we need to turn off the main set and let the retard set work. So let's see, the starter solenoid engages the starter, turns the crankshaft, vibrator pulses flow to both contacts in the left magneto, but are shorted to ground. So now this thing's vibrating away, sending pulses up to both sets of points, but they're closed. And when does the magneto fire? When the breaker opens. So they're both closed, and all these spikes of voltage are going just to ground. So that's not doing anything, so it's off. Let me see, when the crankshaft reaches full advance, firing position. Okay, now it's where it should have fired, say 25 degrees. Should fire it now, but it's too advanced, right? The cam just opened this one right here. And what happened? We had a path through this retard breaker going over to ground. So firing position, the advanced contacts, left magneto open, but the closed retard contacts short the vibrator current to ground. The right magneto is grounded through the ignition switch, so no spark reaches either plug. So this is still going to ground in the start position somewhere. Battery, I don't see. We'll just trust it. All right. When the crankshaft reaches top center, where we want it to fire now, the retard contacts open, remove the ground from both contacts. So now both of them open. So now it's going to work. So now we're sending this vibrator voltage up through here, through the capacitor, which now we have in the primary. The field is growing and collapsing, collapsing across the secondary, cutting across the secondary multiple times, and that's going to come down here and just fire like crazy. Not once, but a lot. As long as those points are open, it's going to fire. That's why they call it the shower of sparks. So the left magneto, high voltage secondary, the high voltage transmits to the distributor, to the spark plug. The left magneto will continue to supply retard spark as long as the switch remains in the start position and the cam is in that position. Then once we release the switch, the engine starts, we release the switch now lines up with battery is no longer on. The retard breaker goes to nothing. Not getting anything through the vibrator. Nothing for the retards, and nothing here on the other switch. So both of these are ungrounded, and now it works like normal.
So in that start position, you have to hold it there.
Just like a regular old car. So, all right. Let's see. We talked about that magneto. Larry's going to talk about spark plugs. That's clinker. Because I don't have time, because I spent too much time doing other stuff. He'll talk about wires, all that good stuff. Oh my goodness. Well, I almost did. Oh, so you have, we're in module 7, right?
Yes.
With all of the Q&As
Yes.
for module 7. So, yes, they're due tomorrow, but more importantly, that's your test tomorrow, right?
Yes.
You're like,
Yes.
I hadn't thought of that.
I saw when you